Welcome to the deep dive, where we, really dig into the nitty-gritty of fascinating topics. And today, we're serving up a deep dive on India's food future.
Yeah, we're talking fields, farmers, and some seriously cool government programs. I bet you've never even heard of some of this stuff.
Right. And get this, we're not just talking about, like, what's for dinner. We're talking about how India is tackling climate change, supporting, like, millions and millions of
We're
farmers.
using tech in some really surprising ways, honestly.
Okay, so first things first, Indian agriculture is,
Well, it's huge, right?
it's a massive.
We're talking over half of their workforce. That's like more people than the entire population of the U.S.
Yes, mind-boggling.
So basically, when we talk about crops and farming, we're talking about the heart and soul of India.
Absolutely. It's the core of their economy. And you know what? They just hit record grain production.
Get out.
Yeah. But, and there's always a but, right?
Right.
They're also dealing with climate change, just like everyone else.
So imagine the challenge, right? How do you keep breaking those harvest records while making sure farmers aren't wiped out by, say, a bad monsoon season?
Yeah, talk about high stakes. That's a tough one. That's actually where I got totally sucked in reading all this stuff. You might not think government reports make for exciting reading, but honestly, India was getting so creative with how they support their farmers.
Oh, for sure. It's not just like, here's some money, go farm. They've got these programs, right, with names like Operation Flood. That one's a whole other story. And initiatives for, well, everything from like beekeeping to get this drones.
Wait, hold on. Drones? Like delivering tiny tractors to the fields or something?
Not quite. We'll get to the tech in a bit, I promise. But you see, this all just shows how seriously India is taking this, right? They're supporting their farmers, not with like Band-Aid solutions, but with these really long-term plans and some serious innovation.
Okay, you've officially piqued my curiosity. So we've got record harvests, climate challenges, and government programs with names that sound like, I don't know, superhero teams. What's the method to this madness?
Think of it like this. You wouldn't like build a house by just throwing up walls and hoping for the best, right?
Hopefully not.
It's the same with India's approach to agriculture, I think. All these programs, they're all interconnected, like building blocks, creating this system that's, well, more resilient, definitely more profitable, and hopefully ready for whatever the future throws their way.
All right, so far we've got the what, but what about the how? How is India actually pulling all this off?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting because India is not just relying on traditional methods. They're bringing in the big guns. They're bringing in technology.
All right, let's talk tech. And we're not talking like, just tractors here. I bet you've got stories about satellites, AI, all that jazz, right?
Oh, way more than you might think. Picture this. A farmer out in the field, right? And they whip out their phone to check like real-time market prices for their crops.
Okay, that's kind of futuristic.
That's the E&AM platform in action. No more relying on middlemen or like just guessing what their harvest is worth. They know exactly what's going on.
Wow, that's huge. It's like giving farmers their own personal stock market ticker, but for, tomatoes and rice instead of tech stocks.
Exactly. And then there are the drones, but forget about like those cute little delivery things.
Right.
We're talking about hyper-efficient pesticide application. These drones can target very specific areas, which means less chemical runoff, healthier crops overall, and safer water for everyone.
Okay, see, now that's what I call a win-win.
Yeah.
But with all this high-tech talk, it's easy to, forget about the humans behind it all, the ones actually out there getting their hands dirty. What about the farmers themselves, especially the women? They're such a vital part of Indian agriculture.
It's a crucial point, and thankfully one that India is really paying attention to. You see, despite facing, honestly, sometimes huge barriers to resources and opportunities, women are really the backbone of Indian agriculture.
For sure, and the data definitely backs that up. So how is India supporting these women? Because, they're essential to their food future, right?
Right. One way is through these programs with dedicated funding, specifically for women farmers. Starting any business takes capital, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
These programs help level the playing field, give them the financial leg up they might not otherwise get.
It's about time. Now, this next one might sound kind of strange, but I read that India's pushing for this, gender-friendly farm equipment design. What's that all about?
Well, think about it. Not everyone's built the same, right? So why should farming tools be one size fits all? We're talking about simple changes, but with a big impact. Adjustable handlebars, lighter materials, things that make a huge difference in reducing fatigue and the risk of injury, especially for women.
Makes sense to me. That's just smart design. And it shows that they're really thinking about the needs of everyone working in agriculture.
Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about crops and technology, even tractors, but there's one crucial element we haven't really touched on yet. Water.
And it's a big one, literally. Remember when we talked about India's reliance on rain-fed agriculture? Well, with climate change throwing these unpredictable weather patterns at us, water scarcity is a huge and growing concern.
Totally. So how are they dealing with that? Are they like building giant sprinklers or something?
It's a lot more nuanced than that. Remember those innovative government programs we were talking about? Those come into play here too. India's promoting these really cool micro-irrigation techniques, things like drip irrigation.
Irrigation.
Yeah. Basically, it's like giving plants tiny, personalized drinks of water right at the roots. No waste.
Okay, that's pretty clever. Less is more, huh?
Yeah.
What about those more traditional water harvesting methods I write about? Like, are those still a thing?
Oh, absolutely. That's the beauty of India's approach, I think. They're blending ancient wisdom with modern tech. We're talking about revitalized ponds, check dams. They capture rainwater during monsoon season, so it's ready to go when things are dry.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach. They're respecting the old ways, but, also embracing the new. Very cool. But we can't talk about Indian agriculture without talking about livestock, right? After all, it's not just about what we're growing in the fields.
You got it. Livestock plays a huge role in the agricultural landscape, not just for food, but also for what they contribute to the ecosystem. Think draft power, natural fertilizer, they're multi-talented. But just like with crops, there are challenges. Climate change hits livestock hard too.
Right, of course. So what's the plan to make sure India's livestock are healthy and productive, even with all these climate changes happening?
Well, they're focusing on a few key things. One is just improving animal health overall through things like vaccination programs, better breeding practices.
Right, makes sense. Healthier animals, healthier agricultural system overall.
Exactly. And remember how we talked about the importance of fodder for the animals? Well, they're encouraging farmers to grow those drought-resistant varieties so there's still food even when it's dry. Plus, they're focusing on better storage techniques for the fodder because, well, you never know when a dry spell might hit.
So it's all about being prepared no matter what.
Exactly. And just like with crops, technology is playing a role here too. We're talking about apps that can help farmers track their animals' health, breeding cycles, even get alerts about potential disease outbreaks. It's like having a whole team of digital vets on call, 24/7.
Wow, talk about bringing livestock management into the 21st century. It's clear that India is taking their agricultural future very seriously.
Absolutely. And while there are definitely challenges ahead, what we've seen so far is a real commitment to innovation, a lot of resilience, and a deep respect for, well, both traditional knowledge, cutting-edge technology.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
But what does the future actually hold for Indian agriculture? It really feels like we've only just scratched the surface here. What's next? What's next for Indian agriculture? What does the future hold?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And yeah, like you said, we've only just dipped our toes into this ocean of information. But one thing's for sure, India's facing some pretty big challenges, but they're also in this amazing position to become like a global leader in all this, in sustainable agriculture.
Okay, so challenges, but also a ton of opportunity. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Climate
Right.
change. We talked about water.
Yeah.
What about those extreme weather events we keep hearing about? Those has to be a major concern, right?
Yeah, they are a huge concern. Droughts, floods, these crazy heat waves that can just wipe out entire harvests. Devastating for farmers, obviously, and, well, it impacts food security for millions of people. That's why India's putting so much effort into developing these, climate-resilient farming practices.
All right, we touched on some of them already, drought-resistant crops, water-efficient irrigation, but what
Yeah.
else? I read something about, planting trees, but that doesn't sound very high-tech.
Don't underestimate the power of simple solutions. Agroforestry, which is what you're talking about, integrating trees into farming systems, it's actually gaining a lot of traction.
Really?
Yeah. Trees are they're like natural air conditioners, right? Providing shade for crops and livestock. Plus, they help conserve water and prevent soil erosion. It's a pretty good deal all around.
So a win-win for the farmers and the environment. Two birds, one tree, I like it. But it can't just be about, playing defense against climate change, right? there have to be opportunities for India to, actually benefit from a changing world.
You're totally on the right track. Think about it. Millets.
Millets.
Yeah, those ancient grains that have been feeding India for like centuries, they're super drought tolerant, incredibly nutritious.
Okay.
And they could be like this climate smart answer to global food security.
Millets, huh? Okay, now you're speaking my language. Sustainable, good for you, a bit unexpected. India's got the potential to be a real trendsetter there, I think. But what about, all the really futuristic stuff? We can't forget about the robots.
You know me too well, and you're right, technology is going to play a huge role in shaping the future of agriculture, not just in India, but everywhere. We've talked about drones and all that data they're collecting, but imagine this. Artificial intelligence analyzing images of crops. Like, we're talking detecting pests and diseases before they're even visible to the human eye.
Wow, that's next level stuff. So no more spraying down entire fields with pesticides just in case. That's like a total game changer for farmers, for the environment.
Exactly. And honestly, it doesn't stop there. Imagine AI optimizing irrigation systems, making sure that every single drop of water is used efficiently, or even like personalized fertilizer recommendations tailored to each field's specific needs. It's amazing.
Okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the potential here.
Hmm.
But with all this talk about these high-tech solutions, it's easy to forget that, none of this stuff works without the farmers themselves, right?
You are so right. India's agricultural future isn't just about technology, it's about people. It's about making sure that those farmers out there, they have the knowledge, the resources, the support they need to really thrive.
So what does that look like in practice? How do you actually make sure that happens?
Well, education is a huge part of it. As farming becomes, more and more data-driven, farmers need the skills to navigate this whole new landscape. And then there's the issue of financial security. Farming is inherently risky, right? And having access to credit, to insurance that can make all the difference. It can be the difference between, like, a successful season and real financial hardship.
It's about empowering farmers to not just survive, but to really thrive.
Exactly. And it's about addressing things like, farmer indebtedness, which is a big problem in a lot of places.
Mhm.
Debt can really trap families in this awful cycle of poverty, and it makes it almost impossible to invest in their farms or even just, build a better future.
Wow, we covered some serious ground in this deep dive. We journeyed from, ancient grains to AI-powered drones. We talked about the challenges of climate change and why it's so important to support women in agriculture.
It really did.
And I think one thing's clear. India's food story, it's far from over. It feels like it's just getting started.
And what a story it promises to be. Full of challenges, absolutely, but also just brimming with innovation, resilience, and this incredible potential to not just, feed a nation, but to really inspire the world.
So to our listeners, we'll leave you with this. The future of food,
Right.
it's a shared journey for all of us. And I think India's story, it reminds us that even when we're facing these huge, complicated challenges, there's always hope, there's always innovation, and there's always a reason to be optimistic about the future.
Beautifully said.
And on that note, we'll leave you to, digest all this amazing information. This was a lot. But remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you're hungry for more, pun intended, we've got links to all sorts of resources in our show notes so you can keep exploring the amazing world of Indian agriculture. Until next time, happy exploring.